I want to know what's the strangest thing you have in your house.
Here, hold on a sec. So this is actually something that my wife desperately felt she needed, and I absolutely agree. And it's a box of teeth.
This is Box of Teeth, chewing over the stories behind the books, with our guest Natasha Pulley. So good morning and welcome to Box of Teeth, where this week we are talking to Natasha Pulley. Hi Natasha. You are the author of Watchmaker of Filigree Street, The Bedlam Stacks, The Lost Future of Pepper Harrow, and as of May 27th, The Kingdoms. So just to give people a brief idea of what The Kingdoms is about, do you think you could sum it up in about one sentence?
Yes. The Kingdoms is about what might have happened if England had lost the Napoleonic Wars.
It's probably fair to say you're now known for your very intricate plots and your very detailed world building. Do you remember what the first detail of this book that came to you was?
I do, actually. The very first thing I ever wrote, the very first snippet, was about a man arriving at an abandoned lighthouse. And I didn't know where the lighthouse was, but I wanted it to be abandoned. And the first thing that I wrote was that because it's so cold, he has to change over all the metal window handles and door handles to wooden ones so that he won't burn himself whenever he wants to open a window or a door to clean.
Wow.
First thing that I wrote, and it is still in there.
I was going to say, I remember that bit. The lighthouse you chose in the end was, and please correct my pronunciation if I get this wrong, Eilean Mor?
Yes, exactly. And it just means, it's Scottish Gaelic, and it just means the Great Island. And it's not actually a big island, it's just bigger than the ones around it.
The biggest island of the available ones.
Exactly.
Did you choose Eilean Mor because of the story of the missing Lighthouse Keepers?
Yes, absolutely, yes. So originally, this lighthouse was actually set in Norway, and I just made up a lighthouse in Norway, and I just liked it because this is where the sea freezes. It's quite spooky. I love Arctic Circle mysteries. But then I read the accounts of the 3 lighthouse keepers who disappeared at Eilean Mor in 1901 and went, yeah, I'm having that.
Yeah, we'll put that in.
I think it's a fascinating story, and also I think it has the virtue of being really quite well known as well. Like there's a Gerard Butler film about it. There's another novel about it called The Lamplighters. So anything that is sort of already in people's sort of cultural consciousness is really useful because it means that they read it and go, oh, it's that. Okay, that's real.
Are there any other nods to true stories at all in the book?
There's bits and pieces all along. So there's one chapter that is set right before the Battle of Trafalgar, from the point of view of one of the lieutenants who's serving on one of the ships under Nelson. And the very first scene is them painting the masts in stripy colours. Nelson really did have them do that because he was a bit of a peacock about his fleet. He really liked this lovely checkerboard pattern when the gun ports came up. I think everyone thought it was a bit silly, but they had to do it anyway because he was in charge.
That's great. What do you write with? Do you write by hand? Do you write on your laptop?
Really boringly, I write on my laptop. And the reason for this is that I'm a very kind of scrappy writer. If I had to write on paper, I would get through, the entire Amazon rainforest very, very quickly, because I'll write, say, 1,000 words and then delete 750 of them and then delete 40 more and then rewrite and then delete all of those and then go back again. This is not it's not a process that is suited to paper at all. It would be awful.
Do you have anything non-writing related on your desk?
So not at the moment because I tidied up because I had a small party last night. But I have a thing I'm very proud of that I think helps.
Yeah?
I have a little garden in a jar.
That's adorable.
I love it. And the reason that I have it is that with writing and with research, I mean, this is particularly before the pandemic, I would be out of the house for 3 weeks at a time, 3 months at a time. And I love plants, but they would just die.
They're not going to survive that, being abandoned for that long.
These beauties have their own ecosystem. And so all you have to do very occasionally is just open the top.
And give them some fresh air.
and give them some fresh air. But I think what it is there's charcoal in the soil, so that they make their own oxygen. They have a plentiful supply of carbon, and they just keep going and going and going. So I have finally found houseplants that I can't kill.
How do you keep track of your plots? Do you write them out at all on your laptop, or do you keep them all in your head?
They never get written out on the laptop because it's very so typing is very linear, isn't it? And it's very difficult to then kind of go back and be like, oh no, that's wrong. So what I tend to do is I'll have a scrap of A4 paper. Usually it's the back of somebody else's editorial letter from a book that's been sent to me, and I treat it with utmost disrespect. And I write on the back of it, and it will usually be a very rough timeline of what is happening, and then I'll get confused and go back and draw squiggly lines on it and then move it round, and it will, by the end of the writing process, it will be the most horrendous looking piece of paper. There will be like soil on it from the terrarium, there'll be like beans on it, but it's still there on my desk, and it stays there for like a year. And it's because this is usually where, if I think of anything that helps with the logic of what's going on, it just goes onto like another little bubble on this thing. And as I run out of space, do I start a new thing and do it cleanly and nicely? No, I just write smaller and smaller and smaller.
That's amazing. I hope you frame them one day as like this is the novel in organic form.
Problem, isn't it? I have not, because I would be ashamed.
So a lot of the novel is about time slips. If you could go back in time and meet a historical figure, who would you choose?
It's an amazing question. And I think there are caveats to this question and my answer to it. So the caveats are, I can come back in about 10 hours, because I would obviously die in any historical period apart from this one within about 10 hours. I think that's important to say. Also important is I would like a fleet of my own medics, because the past is a horrendous place and nobody should ever imagine they could just go back and be fine, because you wouldn't. I wear contact lenses, so unless I'm allowed to bring my contact lens case and contact lens solution, I'm not staying overnight. No. What I'd really like to go back and do is go to one of the places where it's a little bit mysterious and we're not completely sure what happened or why. And the place for me that's where that is particularly true is Peru. I'd like to go back to the Inca Empire, and I don't want to talk to anyone famous, but what I would like to do is talk to a scribe who could tell me how they write things down, because that's still a real mystery.
And that would open so many doors of like things that we don't know, that we do still have the evidence for, we just can't read.
Exactly. And after the conquistadors came, a lot of there were documents, but a lot of them were burned, and what we have left are kind of not all of them have been deciphered, and we're not sure what they are. And is it writing? Is it just knots on string? Well, I think it's writing. I think it has to be. But I want somebody to sit me down and go, right, Pulley, this is how you do it.
That would be amazing. That is a fantastic answer. The other thing I wanted to ask, because time slips make things possible as well as making things impossible, if you were going to go on a time slip adventure with one of your characters from the kingdoms, who would you take?
I would take Kite, because he's got a head on his shoulders and he would know what to do in an emergency. So just well, obviously people haven't read this book yet. In the book, there's a man called Missouri Kite, who is a naval officer and has been completely battered by the war, but is nonetheless very sensible and occasionally very funny. I think he'd be a good traveling companion. The narrator, whose name is Joe, I think would be a bit useless, so I don't really want to go anywhere with him.
And you actually dedicated the book to the crew of the Pelican of London. That's one of your traveling adventures as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the Pelican is a sailing ship, a three-masted square rigger for anyone to whom that means anything. And she's a sail training vessel. So what she does is she's like fully board certified by the Marine Standards Agency, which oversees all this, and she takes aboard people who want to learn to sail a little bit. And it's really, really fun. And last year, through a series of incredible strokes of good luck, I managed to sail with her for a month for nothing. courtesy of this amazing science organisation called Darwin 200, who were doing science at sea. And I got to do that, and I got to do like a microplastic study from the deck of a tall ship, and it was all very cool.
That's awesome, yeah. You posted on your Twitter as well about sea shanties and listening to sea shanties while you were writing The Kingdoms. And a lot of it does take place on board ships. Is there a particular song that encompasses the book to you that you listen to and you go, yes, that's what this book is?
Yeah, there's a lovely one, and it's called Nelson's Blood, which sounds horrible, but it's actually about drinking brandy. It's a really, really good one. And Port Isaac's Fisherman's Friends do a version of it, and there are also versions on YouTube, and it's sometimes called Roll the Old Chariot, because that's the chorus.
Yeah.
But sea shanties are wonderful things, and more people should listen to them. And they're really Moorish, because they're really easy to listen to, because the point is that you learn it in like 2 seconds, because they're functional, they're hauling songs, so you would be pulling a line while you're singing this, or there are very long shanties that happen while you're gathering in the anchor chain, which takes hours.
Takes forever, yeah. What's the nearest book you have to hand right now, and have you read it?
I'm reading The Sanatorium.
Oh yes.
Yeah, which I think is a really, really interesting book. And it's I love this kind of thing. It's basically like a murder mystery set in this hotel that's been adapted from this kind of horrible tuberculosis sanctuary, like way up in the Swiss Alps. And it's got one of those narrators who just like hates everything and is scared of everything. And I find her really irritating, but that's good in a murder mystery, because you kind of hope that she'll get murdered before very long.
Amazing. Do you remember what you did on the day that you found out your first book was going to be published?
I remember very, very clearly, actually. I was in Cambridge, and I was with my friends, and we were having strawberry daiquiris at Frankie and Penny's. And I remember, and we were doing that because the book was out on so the agent had been offering it to publishers, and we were just like, I'm really nervous, calm Natasha down, all is well, honestly, all is well. And we went to see Pacific Rim, so that dates it exactly. Pacific Rim was on at the cinema, and I was actually really excited about it because I love action films, and basically if nothing explodes in a film, I'm not interested. So like the really cool arty stuff, like I've never seen Schindler's List, and I'm never going to. So I'm a huge DC and Marvel person. If it explodes, I'm very happy. So obviously I was absolutely there for giant robots and giant monsters. Like, yes, this is a good thing. And I was really enjoying it, and I'd forgotten all my worldly problems for about half an hour, and then my bloody phone goes off, and it's my agent, and she goes, I've sold the book.
Amazing. Like halfway through the movie.
And so I was in the foyer of the cinema talking to my agent for like 10 minutes, and I was like, this is amazing, Jenny, but I don't know what's happening in the film. I have to go.
Fantastic. That's such a good story. Thank you very much for chatting to us today. You can buy Natasha's book probably now, I should think, because it's coming out on the 27th of May. It was lovely talking to you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Run, 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 kangaroo, oh, chin, chin, run, 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 kangaroo, oh, chin, chin,